I'm old enough to remember when Whirlpool for Priest got buffed from 9 to 8, and all of a sudden it went from unplayable to one of the best clears that Priest has had access to in a while. I think the same thing is true for Annihilation, especially because Annihilation very often ends up summoning you 2 or 3 8/8s that also have lifesteal.
I wish they had not changed Morag, because it would make the Void Soul decks worse. The place where the Void Souls hang out permanently at 10, Morag should have stayed in that pool.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I love the Annihilation and Imp Gang Stooge changes together. Much more worth just like, oh yeah, we just throw this in there. Welcome to episode 556 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, July 23rd, 2026 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergard, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Battlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, NY Kiwi, Spine, Crizzly Bear, and by our patrons of the week, Alan and Tito Santana. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. So, Life and Ladder, I will keep it brief. If you heard the pre-show, I'm playing a lot of BG3. The patch just came out, right? So, this week.
Oh, there was a patch?
Oh, goodness.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's our episode, folks. Spoiler alert. The episode is the patch.
Oh, that patch. I thought you meant the patch for Baldur's Gate.
Oh, no. Baldur's Gate 3 is done in patches. No.
Okay. I thought there was Baldur's Gate 3 content that I missed. Okay, but the Hearthstone patch, the thing that we're actually here to talk about. Okay.
Yeah, the Hearthstone patch, exactly.
Yes.
So, haven't played too much on the new patch. They did a little bit of king making by accident. We'll see how it shapes out. I'm fine with a new Demon Hunter deck arising. They probably didn't have to push it quite so much, but yeah, I hope things shape out a little differently over time. It is without doubt that the championship is going to be very, very different than the playoffs were this past weekend. I guess I'll say that.
I mean, it's hard for it to be very very much the same, given how much the championship was centered around basically 4 decks that several of which don't quite exist in the same way. But
yeah,
we'll talk about that too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll be talking a lot more about the specifics of the meta. I have played a little bit of the Void Demon Hunter. I actually played it a little bit just today, and I got burned down by a burn mage, which actually seems like an interesting way to approach facing it, because they were just like, I see your board and I burn your face. And I've seen a little bit of like Control Priest popping up. The actual official Hearthstone account retweeted a Zetalot tweet.
That's not right. Like, don't bait people like that. Okay, listen.
The official Hearthstone sort of knew it, because they were like, Zetalot says it's good, so it must be good.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to say this for the record. I'm sure Zetalot is a wonderful person, and he is a very, very smart player. His decks are decks that only he can pilot, and I say this as somebody with a lot more priest wins than a lot of people. So do not try to pilot Zetalot priest decks unless you are actually Zetalot, in which case go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not actually play that. I have continued to play a lot of the Soothsayer Priest, which was mostly doing well for me. The patch has made it tougher because, well, one, there's been a few Reform Warlocks, fewer than I think there are at other ranks in top 1K. Although I did run into 2 in a row when I had someone spectating me to try to get a spec quest. It took them like 4 games to get a win from me. I was like, sorry, you might want to spec someone else. And they were like, no, you're my only friend online. You're my only hope. So I was like, all right, no pressure.
Help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope.
They were encouraging, however, and we got there. I'm actually like even into Demon Hunters right now with the Priest, but it doesn't feel great because A, they have Kayn, and when you're counting on your taunts to save you, they don't. And then B, they mess up your death rattle pool. That is somewhat less important, but it can be still very frustrating. It makes your Umbra pretty much useless in that matchup, and it makes your 1-mana undeath spells that I'm suddenly forgetting the name of.
Undeath Sentence?
Yes, it makes Undeath Sentence much less reliable. Sometimes you just have to play it anyway in order to get a shadow spell. Like, I won a game today where I just played it anyway, gave them extra portals on their deck, but I got the quest reward and killed them. So, like, sometimes you do that anyway. It is a winnable matchup, but it doesn't feel great. In a way, seeing rogues was better for this deck, and the play rate of rogue has gone way down. I think the win rate has as well, but it's still like the imbue version is definitely still playable, at least at higher ranks. But we'll get more into those details. So it has been a little
The
frustrating.
disappointing thing is that when you do see a rogue, they're playing Twilight Mistress again, and I was really enjoying that break from not having to deal with Twilight Mistress over and over again. So
yeah, Twilight Mistress, yeah. And the Rafaam Warlocks have Cursed Chains.
Oh, yeah. Yep, they sure do.
That's probably why I've not been seeing any eggs. I have not seen any eggs.
I saw
some
an
eggs?
egg rogue. And I happened this happened to be while I was I don't know what the hell their plan was, but I happened to be playing the Warlock, and I played Cursed Chains into the Herald and ate it, and they conceded. And that was probably the fastest win that I've ever had with the Warlock on turn 4.
Yeah.
Because just eat that. And and that's also why the Demon Hunters have stopped running the 5-drop who summons 2 copies of the Death Rattle minion. I'm the Fell Hunter. They stopped running that because I don't know if it's the reason. I think the reason is also that it was slower and that deck just wants to be faster and it was kind of win more, but also that if the Warlock would steal the first one of your 3-drop Death Rattles, then you would just not have anything to go into it and you'd be sad. Or they would steal the Fell Hunter and then you'd also be sad. And they have Death Rattles that they don't mind getting back in that deck too. So yeah, it's I mean, I'm glad that Warlock seems like somewhat viable because it's been a minute. I don't know how I feel about playing against that deck a lot. I played as that deck and kind of went 50-50 for a while, and it was fine, but it just like sometimes you really need like Annihilation on 7 with the discount from Godfrey, and if you don't get it, you sometimes just die, or you just set up a bunch of taunts and you get caned, which also happens because you just don't have the way to remove it because you really just have the Annihilations and that's it. So I played a little bit of that, but I've been on something of a rank repair extravaganza this week. I was playing the Dragon Warrior prior to the nerf, and I think this was like on Monday, and I went something like 15-2 at one point with it. It was very good, and it turned out that Prussian Slitherdrake and being able to play Mother Duck into Warp Tooth was probably a little bit too good, and we'll talk about that too. But I got myself up to around 1,500, which is higher than I've been in a while.
Nice.
And then I played the Warlock, and that I played 2 games of Azalina Priest first. And then I got that out of my system and confirmed to myself that is as bad as I thought it would be, even with the 40 health. And then I played some of the Warlock, and the Warlock went okay. And then I decided to play the good deck and play. I think I tried the Demon Hunter, like an earlier build with the Fell Hunters, and that wasn't doing very well for me. And then I tried another build after the Warlock that doesn't have the Fell Hunters, and that's been doing very, very well. I'm back up to around 1,800, and I'm like 16-8 with that list. And I had a streak today where I just went like 5-1 this evening. And I was playing a bunch yesterday, and I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8-3 yesterday. So, I mean, the deck's very good. Even in the mirrors, you can, squeak it out. And the decks that are trying to combat it just sometimes just can't get there because you can just like build up a big board of Void Souls all at once and then make them remove it. And if they can't, then you just cane and kill them. So, and you have Xavius to find the cane. So there's not that many minions in the deck anyway, so you can generally find cane when you need it. So it's been pretty good. And I guess we'll talk about that in Dexplanation/news as well. But unless anyone has anything else they want to talk about, we can just, I guess we start with tournaments because news and Dexplanations are one and the same, and that's going to take us a minute because there's a lot that happened. So why don't we talk about the meta that was in playoffs before we talk about the meta that is?
It's the grand tournament.
So we had summer playoffs leading into a very rapid, I feel like we don't usually have this short of a gap between playoffs and championships, but maybe I'm just misremembering. At any rate, champs coming up on this fresh patch. It was a pretty narrow field, largely. Kind of an understatement. Majority of lineups were warrior, shaman, rogue, hunter. There were a couple of priests. There were a couple of mages. I guess there were a few. Look, I wasn't awake for APAC, so in my defense, APAC has some druids as well, some Rithra druids.
And what we have up on the stream is the total field, not the top 8, which is what you would have been casting, because a lot of these other brings would have gotten the herd would have been culled by the time that you got to cast anything on Sunday anyway.
Yeah. But so out of APAC, I don't know this username because I wasn't casting that part, and it's in Korean on Donkey, or on HS Guru. But we have someone from South Korea. We have Shaxi, Rot, and Chonsu. So exciting to see Chonsu make it through again. And yeah, if you want to know what happened in APAC, go back and watch the VOD because I was asleep.
It was a very fast tournament too in general. Like
trios
because like my daughter and I left the house at like 10 o'clock in the morning to go to a card show, and I was expecting to be hearing Europe, and it was already starting Americas, and I was very surprised that we were already up to Americas at 10 o'clock.
There was a real possibility that we were going to finish EU and the Americas players would not be awake to check in because they expected their starting time to be like the time they were told it was later. So like I think we had a forced break basically because of that. Not too long it ended up, but yeah, EU was quite a monolith, right? There was
yeah, looking at EU, there was the top 8 had only one surprise class, which was a mage from Inkoro, but everything else was warrior, shaman,
and that was a quest mage.
Rogue,
the mages were quest mages. Now, it's a little deceptive because I believe there were 1, maybe 2 egg warriors, right? Whereas most of them are actually, the dragon warrior. But I think only dragon warriors made it through. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like it. Although Inkoro did make it through with his quest mage.
Right. Yeah. Egg warriors got rocked. Like, it's low sample size, so maybe they just got unlucky on those games. But, oh boy, you would not know there was an extra copy of Egg of Kelos in those decks for how hard it was for them to find Egg of Kelos. Was rough.
Overall, there was for Egg Warrior, 43% win rate over almost 80 games. That must have been including the Swiss and stuff like that ahead of time.
Yeah, and only L's for the top 8 because it was 0% in top 8. We did not see an Egg Warrior win. But yeah, so there is an interesting thing going on also with Hunter where there's the straight up face Hunter with Confront the Tol'vir topping out the curve, and otherwise it looks, very one-drop face Hunter-y. Hunter kind of is very tight for slots right now. Such that any changes feel challenging, right? Like you slotted in Underbelly Network and the Tripwires, and you took out things like Precise Shot and
I got killed by a precise shot today, but generally they haven't been in there.
Generally, that hasn't been in there. Yeah. But there's also this contraband version of the Face Hunter where you somehow manage to squeeze in King of the Underbelly for. Technically, you have reanimated Pterodax and Tortola in there, but it's for Agamagan. And then because it reduces cost by 3, you basically, if you happen to top deck your Briarspawn Drake, or if you just know it's going to go long, you play King of the Underbelly, and on 7 or whenever you need it, you can play your 7 mana Agamagan into Briarspawn Drake, which is 10 damage plus whatever Briarspawn Drake is able to hit for. And since you have double Earth and Roar, you could do that before the play. It targets 2 minions, sets their health to 1, so you can maybe get 11 damage out of the Briarspawn Drake. 21 damage burst. Pretty good for a deck that already has a lot of face damage. And yeah, the ability to clear also with Earthen Roar and Arcane Tripwire, and then confront the Tol'vir replaying Earthen Roar.
Yeah, on my wish list for Hunter nerfs would be make Earthen Roar 2. Because having it be replayed
It's fair.
twice
Yeah.
by Confront the Tol'vir every time means that big minions are no longer an impediment of any kind to Face Hunter.
Yeah. We should actually
Yeah.
just make all their cards cost at least 2, and then that would fix the problem. But I mean, that's also a factor for why like eggs are not going to do so great. At least one reason, if you have Earthen Roar and the Hunters are everywhere, they don't care about a 20/20 taunt, and then they kill you before they get to resurrect all the eggs, and at least in some
Sure.
cases.
People were back and forth. It was kind of the conversation of the event was, do you ban the Shaman or do you ban the Warrior? A lot of debate about that. The Shaman would be my ban because I don't like getting high rolled by random nonsense. And at least the Dragon Warrior, you're getting high rolled by what you expect them to be trying to do, which is to just get a very good draw. But obviously the Dragon Warrior with Warp Tooth pre-balance change, very, very good. Getting a couple of 6/6s is kind of just enough damage that it was worth running Mother Duck. And when you make that happen on curve or like following a Prescient Slither Drake, it's often just too much burn damage, particularly for something like the 2-bit Rogue, which of course was the Rogue deck that was everywhere. You know, doesn't have healing, does sometimes trouble make you, but is otherwise a Vanessa deck. So look, it's always interesting to watch to see the best players, and we like commenting on it. Personally, these are sort of the bummer tournaments for me because, you know, as much as there is a bummer tournament for me, it's, like I said, always great to watch the best of the best. But when the field is so narrow, you know, I like seeing a little more innovation like we saw out of Ike. Now, Ike did not make it through. Ike was against Banter. This was one of my most, like, awaited matchups. And Americas did have a couple of priests who both made it through, I will say. Had a mage that didn't make it through. Leave it to Americas to have priests make it through.
2 priests.
Indeed. Yeah. But Ike brought Blood Fighter Warrior. And I don't mean Enrage Warrior topped with Blood Fighters. I mean, like, you use the same kind of draw engine as you would for Egg Warrior, except you have the fire spells with Erupting Volcano. You still do Mother Duck for Warp Tooth, which probably you would remove that at this point. And then you have, you know, Hogger with the Blood Fighters. And that just wins a lot of games, it turns out. Removal's bad enough against those minions, and you can make sure that you have it start with Valera, who is elusive, which wrecks the shamans. And it sets up these situations where people actually just can't remove them. So you get to either, you know, take your trades to get out the higher stat versions, right? The 12/12 version, or just push face. And it just got there. It had, I think, 7-1 over the tournament, right? Like, including the stuff that wasn't on broadcast, which is pretty crazy. That was Ike's only win, was that deck. So I was glad that he got to feature it, but Banter did end up getting there in the end. The other players from, I forgot to say the players from
Players from Europe were
Europe.
Nubiser Inkuru, Maverick, and Roberg.
It's noob user. It's what it. Yeah.
Noob user. Oh, I see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
Sandcastle. Yeah.
Which I also got wrong.
Right. So those are the EU players, and then Americas we have Skill Drain, McBanterface, Wind Brownie, and I guess we're just calling them ZLS.
4 Americans.
Yeah.
Like, that's unprecedented.
It really is. Dashing Henry, I was rooting for, didn't quite make it through, the Brazilian player. This is going to be the first time in a while that Brazil has not had any, let alone, many times it's had 5 people go through, but Brazil, no representation in this, I think, in this
Not even on
MT.
points?
I haven't checked points, but no one through playoffs. Previously, you know what? I think previously we've had for America's playoffs part, there's like 5 of the 8 are Brazil. And so a bit of an upset here on that front. I guess the folks were a little bit less unified, less able to sort of rally around a particular thing, and so we're a bit more scattered. It makes sense. It seems like it was kind of harder to innovate in this meta that just happened and is now over.
Yes. There was I can't remember. I don't think it was McBanterface. I think it was Wind Brownie's Priest. A little before hour 10 in playoffs, I tuned in. I was like, oh, it's 7 a.m. We probably have a full day of playoffs left. Nope.
Nope.
It was mostly done. But
which is nice for me. I mean, I don't want that all the time, but
no, but yeah, it did make a much shorter day for you. There was an Egg of Kalos Soothsayer game, which I have done this before, where you generate an Egg of Kalos off of Ritual of Life.
Yeah.
And now you're an Egg Priest.
Just carried.
And it just carried Wind Brownie in that game. Yeah. Just absolutely. You have a lot of ways to kill that egg off. And then you have Umbra already. So,
right.
And you have copies and you're good to go.
Yeah, it felt like the really big thing was basically, oh, I have something you will never remove, and I can target with Hold Them Off. And so against something aggressive, Hold Them Off, if that lands, is just devastating. +5/+5 lifesteal. And yeah, that swing really just brought it home.
Maybe if the field is now 40% Demon Hunters, I just throw Egg into my Priest.
They
and
still
say,
have
whatever.
Kane.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I can put lifesteal on it and stuff. And they don't always have. But the point is, if you keep your...
They always have Kane.
Not always. And if you keep your health total high enough, it doesn't win them the game on the spot. And if you have Shadow Word Ruin, you can kill their stuff before it can attack.
Yeah,
right? Kane
crucially,
has charge,
at least...
but the rest... But Trastath doesn't.
The priests that I've murdered have not been able to deal with the boards that well.
That's because they're not running Shadow Word Ruin anymore, and I don't know why.
I think I've gotten Shadow Word ruined, and it still hasn't made it that much of a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, the 10s at least are not immediately lethal, right? Like it's the one that taxes minions and it's Omen. So it's bad if you are another minion deck, but if you're trying to remove all the things, you do have time as long as you actually have the resources.
But if you let that stick for one turn, then you die.
Then you're toast. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I mean, again, I think I've been somewhat lucky with them, and I've been usually, if I win, I kill them before then. So I'm trying to think of, like, is there a way to build the deck so that it will kill them earlier? But anyway, that's not tournaments.
Yeah, well, that is tournaments. Tournaments is done. We can now move on to patch notes.
Yeah, because that meta's done. We're not going back to it. It is interesting. I think the problem with this tournament meta, before we go off that, is that, like, normally what'll happen is if you have a really narrow ladder meta, you end up with a more wide tournament meta because everybody bans the one good deck, and then you have like a more interesting meta. If you have a really wide ladder meta, you have generally you have a pretty interesting tournament meta because then you get a lot of different variety. It's when you have like 4 good decks that you end up, which is what we had. We had 4 good decks.
Right.
That are all roughly around the same power level, and that's when you get a really boring tournament meta. Yeah. Like, why am I? Because you can't target anything, so then you just everybody brings the good stuff, because why would I not bring the good stuff if it's all if I can't target anything, and then you just have just like Chillwind Yetis bumping into each other for the whole day.
Well,
So
not Chillwind Yetis, but the same things.
the decks being, the decks being the equivalent of Chillwind Yetis, like 4/5s bumping the decks as a whole being 4/5s that are all bumping into each other, and then not actual
see.
Chillwind Yetis. Yeah, but I'm making a metaphor. Go just yes and me, and we'll be fine. Anyhow, but enough about that meta, because it's done, and we need to talk about the meta that we're in now, which is very different, for better or worse.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So there is one bit of not patch notes related news, which is that there were a bunch of announcements this week around BlizzCon, and we are one of them, and we will be at BlizzCon September 12th, 13th in Anaheim. So if you're going to be there, we will hopefully see you there. We are trying to figure out logistics around schedule and whatnot. And then once we have a better idea if we're going to end up doing some sort of a meetup or anything like that, we will let you know. Stay tuned. We don't know enough yet to be able to do anything about that yet, but we are definitely planning content from the show, and how much we're still going to figure out. But there are ways for us to record and get content out to you from the convention, which we have been assured. So stay tuned for that, but we will definitely have more to say about that as we get closer. And there have been a number of people who have been announced as special guests. We're not special guests, but we're going to be there. So I'm sure we're special to you, but not like we don't get the title. We're all very special.
We will be doing media coverage, but we're not like a featured guest at the meet and greet, which, there was very limited spots for those. But yeah, we're excited to be there.
We maybe could it would probably be worth doing something like making, I don't know if like a BlizzCon channel would be the thing to do, but just sort of creating some kind of thing in the Discord for people who want to opt in can be notified of like things going on at BlizzCon. So we can be like, hey, we're going to be at this place and this time if folks want to meet up. Right. So it'd have to be our own sort of organized meet and greet type situation.
And then if you have
Yes.
devastating FOMO, you can mute that channel. So yeah.
Right.
Yes. So no, certainly I definitely want to see as many people as we can while we're there. And that's one of the main really fun things about BlizzCon. So we haven't had one of these since 2023. So really excited to have that and get to see people in person. Wicked, I haven't seen you in person since 2023.
I haven't seen either of you in person since then. So that'll be fun. And hopefully we'll get to spend some time with Edel when she's not off, casting and being a celebrity. But we can be caster fifth and six wheels, I guess, but we'll figure that out when those logistics out when we get there. But anyway, that is self-serving self-promotion. But the real news this week is that we got a balance patch, and boy, howdy, did we get a balance patch. There are, I believe, 5 or 6 nerfs and about 11 billion buffs. That is an accurate count. So let's just go through them. I mean, if you've been playing at this point, you know what they are, but we are going to talk through them anyway. And the dev comment here is, Escape from Violet Hold is shaking up the meta in a big way, and we've loved seeing so many new cards making an impact. At the same time, we've seen a few classes start to fall behind, including Warlock, Death Knight, Priest, and Demon Hunter. Overall, class and deck diversity are lower than we'd like, especially at high ranks, so this patch is focused on opening up more options. To help with that, we're improving a large number of Escape from Violet Hold cards with a particular focus on supporting underperforming classes. Azalina Soul Sever is receiving one of the biggest updates we've ever given a card, complete with an all-new start of game effect. We're also making adjustments to several of the current top-performing decks, such as 2-cost Rogue and Mug Shaman, focusing on early blowouts. In Wild, Warlock was already quite powerful before Escape from the Violet Hold, and Godfrey the Betrayer has further increased its overwhelming presence. Because of that, we're taking some larger swings with an outright ban to Godfrey and nerfs to several other key cards for Warlock decks, We'll be monitoring to see what happens after these large changes and make continue follow-ups as needed. As always, we'll be watching closely to see how this meta develops. Like we're mostly focused on standard, but I know that there was a lot of chatter in the wild community about Warlock having a win rate of above 80% in wild leading up to the balance
Dear.
patch. So
Turns out they had a lot of card draw effects already in wild.
yeah. The main thing is that Godfrey, along with Solarium, just gave them a ton of card draw. And if they weren't burning cards anymore, then they were just able to just turbo. It was already very good. And then this just kind of turned it up to 11 and nothing was able to keep up with it. So I haven't really checked in on our wild friends to see how they're doing after these changes, but anything has to be better than what they were dealing with before. So
What I've been seeing, at least just like glancing through the channel, is that before there was just the occasional sad post, and now they're posting again about what they're playing. So that seems like
that's good. Yeah.
Good good
Yeah.
change.
And I guess I should say also, like when we're talking about this is really like Diamond 10 and up that you're seeing these types of things happen. Like if you're going in, even when things are like at their bleakest in wild, if you're going in with like a 4 or 5 star multiplier, you can pretty much play whatever you want. This is really only once you're playing enough that you start hitting a meta, and then you start running into those things. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But let's start talking about what changed. So starting with Vanessa, Vanessa went from a 6 mana 4/4 to a 7 mana 4/3. So this is intended both to slow her down a little bit and also make her a little bit easier to remove, because the part of it is the board that she leaves behind, but also the threat of repeating the same experience the following turn if you don't immediately remove her. And there's a lot of removal that can do 3 damage that is a lot easier to get to than 4, especially when she's coming down on like turn 4, which she often does in the rogue at least.
And she's something that they said they had a dev update video that came out with these patch notes. I think the last time it come out a little later because like they were still figuring out the timing of the videos. So now they were able to get it out at the same time, which is really nice. And what they said about, I pulled the transcript so that I could refer to it during the show. And what they said about Vanessa was basically that she was also a mulligan outlier, basically, where the win rate of the card in the opening hand was crazy. And so that just makes it feel like the game is over if they had Vanessa in the opening hand. And of course, they're running like Kingslayer in part just to get Vanessa. And then, yeah, having her be 3 health is actually relevant because you need to be able to clear her. There was a lot of other things I think potentially they could have done, but we've already seen from this just a big reduction in Vanessa supremacy.
Yeah,
we had before.
Because the play pattern would be play Kingslayer, find Vanessa, hopefully. I mean, you have pretty much a 50-50 shot, really, because it was really just like Vanessa and Garona.
Well, you always find her on the second swing if you...
Yeah, so either way, and yeah.
Shadow of Demise. But
Shadow of
close
Demise
enough.
is there. So you have a whiff, but it's not often. You're overwhelmingly favored to find it. And then on 3, you would prepare her. On turn 4, you go off. Now, if you prepare her on 3, then you're not going to be able to play it on 4. So then you have like a turn where you're going to have to figure out something to do. So it does slow it down by a turn.
You can play her on... What it really slows down is you had her in your opening hand and you play her on 2. Or you play her on 3 because she was in your opener. Right?
Yeah, I think the most recurring sort of powerful pattern was to prepare on 2 or on 3 after playing the 2-drop that gives you a coin, and then going off on either 3 with prep and natural coin after preparing on 2, or on 4 with the coin from the 2-drop, and like, yeah, just slowing all of that down to be a turn later in the natural flow of things is a significant hit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and there are a number of things that can do 3 damage. Like Demon Hunter now has Void Blast, which does 3. That only costs 2. So there's a lot of things that do 3. Dealing 4 is a lot harder. Usually you need 2 things to do it, and then you're not dealing with the rest of the board. And yeah, so this at least is going to be a little bit easier. I haven't really seen a lot of Rogue since the patch, and that wasn't playing Egg of Kelos for some reason.
I have started to see a little bit more in the way of Rogue again, because it is like the Imbue version in particular. Lower ranks, it has fallen into tier 3, barely, but at higher ranks, it is in tier 2. On HS Replay, it's like 52 to 53% in top 1K, but in Diamond through Legend, it's 49. but that's like playable. And it is a deck that gets better when you have higher, like it does have a higher skill cap, as VS would say. So it looks like Vanessa is still a mulligan outlier in that deck. Like you do still.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's still a very good card.
It's still a very good card, but it certainly has succeeded in making it no longer like a play rate outlier for sure, or a super power outlier. But like if you enjoy Rogue, you can play Rogue right now, and I am seeing Rogues.
And I would not be surprised, though it kind of pains me a little, would not be surprised if some Rogues start going back to the old Twilight Mistress.
They are. Yep.
Yeah, because that didn't lose anything. The only reason that fell by the wayside was that the 2-bit Rogue was faster. And so now I think you just maybe slot the Jade Guardians or slot the Troublemaker. Like you can just put those things into the old Twilight Mistress, the Elise Rogue, right? The good stuff Rogue. And go about your day, right? And it's even kind of better for that Rogue, the change, because you don't have to keep a bad card in the mulligan, right? In terms of Troublemaker, which is the other change that we should mention.
Yeah,
Lotus Troublemaker.
we should just go there now because we've already been kind of talking around it. So Lotus Troublemaker went from deal 2 damage to a random enemy, shoot 1 time while holding this, play cards for 2 mana to shoot more, to Battlecry, deal 1 damage to random enemy, shoot 1 time, while in hand or deck, play cards for 2 mana to shoot more. So what this does is it increases the consistency of the card while removing some of like the variance due to when you would draw it. It's still going to do probably around the same amount of damage. It's not going to do quite as much damage overall, but it will do more consistently the same amount of damage, as opposed to if you had it in your opening hand, or if you had 2 of them in your opening hand, you can just solo somebody. Or if you draw it late, then it's a 3 mana 2/2. So
right.
There's a little bit more consistency to it, but the overall damage output is less, and hitting in 1 damage shots instead of 2 also means that you're removing minions in the way a little bit later sometimes, or leaving some kind of awkward breakpoints where you wouldn't have been leaving them with the 2 damage shots. So it's definitely a weaker card overall, but it's not going to be such a high and a low. It's going to be a little bit, maybe like 40% to 50% of where it was, as opposed to like just, 100 or 0.
And crucially, there's no sacrifice anymore, right? Like you don't have to go, well, I'm going to keep this in the mulligan, even though it's not doing anything for a long time because I want it upgrading. And now you can just be like, well, I only need it when I'm going to play it. So you really would rather not draw it until the last possible moment.
Yeah, same as Jade Guardians at this point. I mean, because Jade Guardian, it's behaving the same way as Jade Guardians, where it just cares about how many you've played. I mean, it does. If you somehow get it generated, or you were to like bounce it back to your hand, which is not as much of a thing anymore, then it would reset it. That is a difference from Jade Guardians, but it's a small difference.
First, I was wondering, why does it say in hand or deck instead of this game, and bounce is exactly why.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
HS Guru has slightly different stats than HS Replay, but puts both 2-bit Rogue and what he's calling Garona Rogue at 52 to 53%, with the Garona Rogue actually performing a little better, which is basically the same list but without Troublemaker. Just focus more on Jade Guardians and adding a Rustrot Viper or 2 for the DHs, and like Cult Neophytes for the Demon Hunters.
3 durability weapon that carries something that hard is really where, and particularly when they have 2 of them. Man, yeah, that is prime Viper.
I mean,
o'clock.
Viper, Twilight Mistress for when they do get a big board, you just bounce it back to their hand, and it's hard for them to play.
At top 1K, the Twilight Mistress deck is sub 50%. So
is it going down at top 1K?
I'm surprised by that, honestly.
Well, hold on. Let me check that.
And if I limit to past day,
Not if I look at the archetype.
Oh, it's going way down. Yeah. it's, I mean, at least the lists that have more than 100, maybe not at the archetype level, but I'm just looking at like the decks. I guess I should be looking at the meta tab for this. The 2-bit, yeah, I guess they're pretty similar.
It's too soon.
Yeah.
It's too soon to say for sure. And if you look at the individual deck level, it's not a high enough sample size. If you look at
Yeah.
the overall archetype, 2-bit rogue and Garona rogue get slightly better at higher ranks, which would make sense to me. Exactly what build you should be playing, listener. Again, we're recording this right like on Thursday. The patch just came out on Tuesday. So we're not necessarily going to be able to tell you exactly how you should be building these. But I think it's fair to say you can play rogue.
Yeah, it's not dead. Because the deck is not dead by any stretch of the imagination. Whether you should be cutting Troublemaker or not is a little bit up for debate. Troublemaker is still a playable deck after all this, or a playable card after all this. So
I wanted to note what they said about Lotus Troublemaker in the video, which was basically that they said that Lotus Troublemaker doesn't look like much of an individual statistical outlier, but it certainly was a sentiment outlier. They didn't say it quite like that, but mostly there was this feeling of variance on how powerful Troublemaker is when it's drawn early versus drawn late. And so they wanted to make it seem less like just luck of the draw. Have they had this in their hand the whole time or not? And I'm sure as the rogue that was frustrating too when you didn't draw it early enough.
I think I said that. I don't think I said it on the actual episode. I think I might have said it in a pre or post show after the pre-release brawl, that I was surprised that they didn't do it like that, or I wouldn't be surprised if they changed it to exactly what they changed it to because of that. Not because it's too powerful, but just because it feels bad. Like somebody feels bad every time that a Troublemaker is played or drawn. Because either the person who's getting annihilated by it feels bad that it was in their opening hand the whole time. And you can kind of, if you're using Deck Tracker, you can kind of track the left card of their hand and see that it wasn't moving and know what's coming. Or you're the person who's playing it and you just drew it on turn 8 and then you're sad because you have a 3-mana 2/2 in your hand that isn't doing much. So this is the kind of thing that it's making it a more consistent card and having it behave a little bit more predictably, but still powering up during the game, I think is a good thing for the card overall, and just not making it feel like, oh, well, I lost a draw.
Yeah. And it is not a dead card. Whether or not it's correct to what exactly the list is correct, like the card is not.
The card is not dead. Yeah.
Dead. Yeah.
Yeah. So
anyway.
Yeah. But speaking of draw RNG, so the other big change, well, I guess not, they're all big changes, but Blazing Invocation is removing the 1-mana discount because in Mug Shaman, playing a 3-drop on turn 1 is dumb. So now it's only going to be a 2-drop that you'll be able to play on 1, which is still good, but not as good as being able to play a 3-drop on 1 and then being able to go do it again or play was it Mountain Map? Is that the other one that discovers a minion that you have of a type you haven't played and you hope that you hit that? And also, if you discover a bunch of expensive stuff, if all it offers you is expensive stuff and you just played your Blazing Invocation, you're immediately behind. If that's what's happening, because that discount gets a lot worse as the game goes on. And that deck really is looking to use the discount early as a tempo advantage to get an overwhelming lead. And when you don't get that, it is pretty hard. So that's also going to lead to more variance in Blazing Invocation, that if you can't play that card on 1, that is going to remove 3 drops from the pool and limit you to 1 and 2 drops that you can play on 1 to get that tempo advantage. And that is a lot fewer minions that are going to be offered to you to be able to get that lead and snowball it.
And both of the stat sites have Mug Shaman as positive to good still. So in Diamond through Legend, like, it is still a good deck. I have seen a few of them. But I think it has absolutely been a popularity hit. Because I don't know how much people really loved playing Mug Shaman versus just Mug Shaman was so good. And so I think a lot of those people have jumped ship to Void Soul Demon Hunter. It's a shame that we weren't in, it's impossible to predict the future entirely. It's a shame that we weren't in this place right away, because I think we would have had more of a balance, less shamans earlier and less DHs than we have now. But yeah, Mug Shaman is still good, but just having that one hit seems to have been good enough to just reduce the prevalence and reduce the sort of untargetability that it felt like it had. And Z Shaman is actually slightly better than Mug Shaman right now. And that's not saying Mug Shaman is bad. That's saying Z Shaman is actually doing pretty well.
Also, now that you can play Slagmaw in the deck, like, it was something you wanted to play even with it not being bugged, right? Like, with it working as it should. I feel like it's still something you want to run in Zsham. Is it not in there?
Slagclaw? No, Slagclaw's. I think Slagclaw's
Yeah.
in there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, the deck was taking a hit when that was banned because they couldn't get it fixed right away. So the fact that you are able to, I think, is a big deal for the deck. And, solid deck.
Yep, it's a tempo deck. It has Maiev, it has Ember Scarred Whelp, it has Hijack Security Bot, it has some Herald stuff for early tempo, and then if it does go late, you have Deathwing, you have Alakir. Herald stuff is awesome to double the battle cry, or Slagclaw is still great to double the battle cry. So yeah, I lost to this today.
Yeah, I'm looking at Legend for just the past day, and Z Shaman appears to have like a 53% win rate over 1,400 games, which is, again, not a huge sample size, but meaningful. And Mug Shaman is 50.7 over 3,000 games. It feels like a coin flip deck. It kind of always did feel like a coin flip deck, and now it's more coin flippy, and the stats are kind of starting to mirror that. So.
Yeah.
And it's a fun deck, right? Like, it's fun to play a bunch of random stuff, and that's fun, but it's also, that's the kind of deck that can make you feel like your decisions don't matter because you're just playing against whatever random nonsense they generated, and it takes a lot of the agency. It can feel like it takes a lot of the agency out of you, which is why we ended up talking about dealing with randomness on last week's episode instead of doing a deck guide for anything. So.
Yeah. Peek behind the scenes, we were like, yeah, let's do Mug Shaman. It seems like the deck. And we all played it and we were like, this sucks. Like, we could not handle playing the deck.
Yeah, Z Shaman seems much more my speed, and maybe I'll switch to that. Yeah, the classic Magesa aggro seems to be more like what's going on there. I mean, what they said in the video about Blazing Indication was basically exactly what we just said. Right, it's Mulligan. Was both the strongest Mulligan and drawn win rate card in the deck, and so it just seemed like that was such a strong outlier that just that one nerf would be enough. And I think that was successful. Deck is not dead, but its prevalence has gone way down, and its win rate no longer feels unstoppable.
Yeah, and typically they put this 1 mana discount on some of these, like Discover or whatever, that just puts it in your hand because it feels like you're falling behind by playing it otherwise. Like, you're basically paying 1 mana to be able to get a random card instead of just putting a good card in your deck that you'd want to play. The problem is when that becomes not a drawback, but a benefit, then they usually take away that discount because it's actually making it better. It's a card that you're going to want to play, so they don't need to entice you to play it anymore. And it's okay for that to... I mean, in Mug Shaman, it's not really a cost anyway, because you're still getting it discounted, but normally that would be a cost, paying that 1 mana just to be able to see 3 cards and pick one.
Well, like, when Nature Studies was enabling too much, they removed the discount, right?
Yeah.
When Deja Vu was enabling too much, they removed the discount. This is a common trajectory for nerfs on 1 mana discover thing spells.
So we also got Warp Tooth now requires 4 friendly characters to take damage on one of your turns in order to get summoned instead of 3, because Mother Duck makes 3 ducklings, and the ducklings all run into something, and then Warp Tooth comes out immediately. And it didn't really take much to enable it. So now it is slightly harder. It is not impossible to make this happen, but you generally have to work a little bit harder to get it to happen, which means that it is worse.
It is a lot worse. Dragon Warrior is tier 3 now. Single-handedly.
I am not a fan of this change. I think that this was a case of the 3/3s could have lost health, and I would have been more comfortable with the situation. Because I think the times where it's felt bad to me have been when I'm like, oh gosh, how am I going to remove these 3/3s on top of the damage I just took? The times where they used them to trade felt fine, right? So if they were 3/2s or even 3/1s, I think it would be okay, right? You're getting a thing with charge out of your deck. It doesn't need to be able to stick around easily. But making it that same power level, but this level of heart, like, it already says that it was a little bit difficult to get out if you had to run Mother Duck, right? You had to run a specific extra card in your deck that we do not ever run because you had to use it as an activator for pulling out Warp Tooth. That means it was a hard thing to do because otherwise we would do it with our Enrage weapon and these other things. Now we're in a situation, right, where you kind of just can't run it. And I don't think it was so offensive that we needed to make it unrunnable.
It's just too ducking hard now is the problem.
Something I saw floated also was you could nerf Mother Duck, right? You could make Mother Duck more expensive or not summon as many, so it basically doesn't work for that. So you have to do it the other way.
Nerf the boring arena common. I don't know if she's active, if it's actually a common, but nerf the boring arena neutral rather than nerfing one of the big legendaries that was supposed to be the exciting thing from your set. If that's what the problem is. I mean, not that that's the only way to do it, but like I guess Egg is also a little bit of an issue here, right? Like Egg Warrior was also running Warp Tooth, and sometimes they could use that for some board control. I don't think that was, but again, like you said, like when they're using that to trade, that is not what's really the offensive thing about it for the most part.
Because I think the Egg decks that ran Warp Tooth were kind of worse for it because it was harder for that deck to get it out. And if they had to run Mother Duck, that's a bigger sacrifice for them.
Oh, they weren't running Mother Duck. They were just running Warp Tooth.
Right. So it was just as hard as intended to get out, which was like kind of hard. So that means that it could make your draws worse because you don't care about, in that deck, you don't care about pulling it out of your hand so much.
Right. And you don't even care about the face damage because you're going to get your face damage all at once with or without the Warp Tooths.
Right.
Yeah, it's been tough out there for Warrior. I definitely, there's some interesting experimentation in our Discord with like blood fighter things, but the Warp Tooth does make it hard. And I know like Enzo was using like city defense and some clever ways that other people hadn't been experimenting with as much to get Warp Tooth out, and now that doesn't work. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you have to have, like, on average, you need to have either 4 minions on board or 3 minions and a weapon in order for this to happen, right? Because it's not like a character takes damage 4 times. It's 4 different characters need to take damage.
Exactly.
So, like, if you have 4 minions that you're able to... First of all, if you're trading with 4 minions, that's probably not a great situation for you anyway. And then you have to have space on the board for them. It's just like I also do, or maybe we could have made them 2 3s or 2 2s or something. I mean that might have been just as bad if the damage that was coming out of it was too much, then make the attack smaller if we're worried about the damage output, right? Like Patches was a 1/1 and that saw play for the entire time that it was in standard. Anyhow, but on a less controversial note. Confront the Tovir went from 4 mana to 5 mana. Good, get out.
I mean, it did not get out.
It didn't get out even. Yeah.
I know you haven't really been seeing Hunters, but Hunter is arguably the best deck in the game right now.
Yeah, and it's still fine at 5.
My preference would be, I mean, like, it's fine at 5. I don't mind that they made it 5. My preference would be to take at least 1 or 2 1-cost cards and make them 2. Like, take Earth and Roar and make it 2, or I don't know.
I think you can take Tame Pet and make it 2 at this point. Like Companion Hunter's done, fine. Make Tame Pet 2. Don't give them a free draw, right? Like that's part of it. I think that is. I understood it being that way when Companion Hunter was new because they wanted people to play Companion Hunter because of the class sets. It's done. We can go to 2 with that now, and then it only works in Companion Hunter, and they're not running it in every Hunter deck because it happens to be a 1-cost spell that gets replayed. I think that's an easy thing they could do.
What if it doesn't replay all 1-cost spells, but it has like a cap?
Or caps it.
Like 5 1-cost cards or something. I mean, I don't know what the right number there would be, right? This is why I'm not a designer, but like, yeah. Like having
like
some
Umbra.
so that it's not just doing everything. Yeah, like Umbra. You could bring the cost back down again and have it be like 5 things.
Yeah.
And I think that would still be a strong card.
Yeah.
I don't know. A Hunter is still very strong.
I mean, we're gonna look. I mean, this is one of those things where like Pyroblast was 8 mana, and we're like, how the hell was that 8 mana ever, right? And this is something we're gonna look back at this like, and we're gonna tell people in like a year and a half, hey, do you know the Confront the Tol'vir cost 3 mana when it came out? And they're gonna be like, what the hell are you talking about, Grandpa? Like, so it's still good. Hunter's still fine. Play your Confront the Tol'vir. It is slightly more fair, but it also means that they have more time to play 1-cost spells that it's going to do more when they play it. So I don't know. They need to look at what they're doing with this card, because just making it more expensive isn't the problem. Like, it is, you could probably make it cost 6 and it might be playable still. Like, it's not the cost of the card, because the card does too much regardless of the mana cost. And if you're playing it later, it's doing more because you've had more time to do things. So anyway, get your dust for these. You reminder that you can type refund into the collection manager, find everything that's been nerfed, dust anything that you're not actively playing. You can always recraft it if you're not actively playing it right now, and certainly dust any extra copies that you might have. If you decide that you want, if it's still good, like Confront the Tol'vir, you can just go recraft it and you're not out any dust. But if you forget to dust them, then you won't be able to get that dust after the refund period, which I'm mostly saying for myself because I realize I haven't dusted any of these cards yet.
And I actually was running into a bug where refund was not showing me everything. So if refund doesn't show you very much, then do go through one at a time. There's only 5 of them, and just take a look at what you have. I was also seeing that I did not dust my signature Vanessa, but it was letting me, which I'm not sure that that's intentional.
I mean, I think it's because it's uncraftable.
Well, because it came from the
bundle.
From the bundle, I didn't open it. I mean, I'm not complaining, and I'm also not going to dust it. If that is you, it is a lot of dust. It is also still definitely a playable card, and you can't recraft Sigs. So, but you can also get 2 different legendaries for that price. So, like, up to you if you have a Sig Vanessa and you're trying to figure it out.
Warp Tooth, I would dust right now, like, because that you could go get something else and then you can get. And I mean, unless they buff it later, which they might, or they revert the nerf, like, Warp Tooth seems bad enough. You're probably not going to be playing it. So, and you can always recraft it with the dust if you hold on to the dust. But anyway, and what might you want to craft with that dust? Well, they buffed a whole bunch of cards. So some of them don't craft those, but some of them are probably worth crafting. So speaking of things you might not want to craft, Blood Doctor Thelena went from 5 mana to 4 mana. It's still a battle cry and not a start a game effect. So I don't know if it comes down a little bit earlier if you have it in your opening hand, but it's a one of that is not super easy to tutor. So it's still what it is.
I think, I'm sure they tested it as start of game, because I will say they have been hearing from the community and from creators in the creator Discord and stuff that, like, the discourse about having being start of game. It's not like they were unaware of that as an idea. So it was clearly an intentional choice not to make it start of game. I don't know whether it certainly would make the card better. I don't know if that would be better for the game or not.
Yeah.
But I think they maybe didn't want to have something that consistent as they build around card. As we've talked about before, it has to be a nice to have, not a have to have, as it is right now. Death Knight overall is not doing that well. The Corpse Death Knight is the best one, but it's still not great.
And to be clear, like, I'm not saying that they should make it a start a game effect, but I'm saying that if you're going to buff it, this is not really the problem. The cost is not going to, it makes a little bit of a difference if you have it in your opening hand. But it's, again, if we're talking about draw RNG, creating variance, there is a large variance if you're trying to build around having access to that hero power, and sometimes you just don't get it, then it's going to be hard to justify putting that into a deck consistently. And making one less is not going to make that much of a difference.
It's kind of, the opposite source problems that can be solved in the same way from the Troublemaker, right? Which is that you have a card that is not seeing play and would benefit from being a start of game, right? In the way that Troublemaker now, like, is something that's going to track regardless. So I think that you could say make the attack +2, right? And then have it be start of the game. And that way, you're preemptively reducing the power because you know that they're gonna start with it every time. But now people get to do the cool thing and build around it. And it still costs corpses, right? So like it inherently doesn't have some of the like, I don't know, scariness of some things because it has that cost.
The other thing that they could do, they've taken away runes to make cards easier to play. Make it triple blood. You want to give it a deck building restriction? Give it a deck. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it's an idea. You know what I mean?
You're saying make it start of game, but triple blood.
But triple blood, yeah.
Yeah, I think fewer people would be excited by that.
I mean, you want to, if it needs to have a deck building restriction, that's one way you could do it without actually reworking the card, right? Because typically the start of game effects have some sort of a deck building restriction on them. Like Beatrix puts 10 more 2-drops into your deck. Azalina makes you a mirror match, right? So like the ones that are start of game typically have some sort of a deck building effect to compensate for it. I think the exception is really Ysera, I think is the only one that doesn't. But even then, that's kind of like, that's not really an immediate start of game effect anyway. That's kind of like if the game goes long enough, then you get that. And it's also giving something to the opponent when that happens too. So I don't know what the answer is, but it doesn't seem like making it one cheaper is the answer.
Yeah.
Sawbones is going from a 6-mana 6/4 to a 5-mana 5/3, which should make that a little bit easier to play. I haven't seen a lot of this easier either, but I would imagine making it a little bit cheaper and easier to prepare if such a deck were to arise, that would certainly help some. But I haven't seen any Death Knights really trying to run this, or if they are, they've died long before they got a chance to build a board and Sawbones in.
I had someone do it to me. Deck is closer than it might seem, but looking at like matchups, it loses to Demon Hunter. Not by a lot, but it does, and it loses to Shaman. And that's just mostly if you have a negative win rate versus Demon Hunter right now, even if it's only like a little bit, then that really tanks you pretty hard. I guess this particular list I'm looking at is actually positive. The archetype as a whole is negative. Maybe it depends on... Again, these stats are early and they're not high enough win rate. I think that it is better than it was, the aggro DK, and it might be playable. The Sawbones, when I saw it played against me, was pretty effective, and it was easier for them to get it down earlier. So like some of them do look a little bit positive. They have like Acolyte of Death for a draw engine. They have, it's like Elven Archer, but only one of in this one, Morbid Swarm, Twilight Egg, Ancient Raptor, Bone Flurry, Corpse Cannon, Drink Blood, Infested Breath, 1 Poison Breath, Acolyte of Death, Tower of Ghouls, Thelena, Falric. Devious Coyote, actually, with the first time that we're seeing this. Man, I was so wrong about that card. I thought it was going to be great. And then Theory Crafting, it was like, this is kind of hard, actually. And then Expansion Launch, it was like, oh yeah, no, this is actually really bad. But maybe not in this deck. And the real scam continues to be Talanji's Last Stand, right?
I tried so hard to make Devious Coyote work with the Hunter, because it feels like such a natural fit, right? That you've got these arcane tripwires that do all these pings. But the list is so tight that like you just can't make it work.
Yeah, if the list wasn't so tight, well, if it wasn't everything has to cost 1.
Right, yeah.
But although if you completely killed Confront the Tol'vir, then you'd probably kill the deck. But anyway, we already talked about Confront the Tol'vir. So I think that the aggro DK was helped more. Then we'll talk about in a second. They also did a buff to a slower Death Knight card. But like it's either close-ish to playable or playable. We'll have to see how that shakes out. Not super strong, but much stronger than it was.
Emergency Surgery. For those of you who don't remember, who have never seen this card, 5-mana Blood Unholy Death Knight card spell. Choose an enemy minion, summon 3/3/1 life undead with lifesteal that attack it. It's now going up to 4. This is such a weird one to me. because the only time that really matters is if your opponent has something with more than 9 health.
Well,
Because
it leaves it behind, and most of the time it gets traded.
but they're 3/1s. They're so easy to remove. I guess they're healing. Sometimes they're healing you if you have to trade into them, but like also like arcane missiles exists, right? Like they're pretty easy to, or like Broxigar's Last Stand. There's like a lot of ways to get rid of those 3/1s. I guess you have to use it on it, but you also have to have board space for the 4th undead, which is the other problem with this a lot of the time, is that if you don't have board space for undead, then it doesn't, and it's the same card as it was before. And it is not easy, especially in a deck with unholy cards in it, to have 4 free board spaces when you want to play that all the time.
I mean, this is not for decks that we call unholy. This is for blood unholy decks, right?
Yeah.
I saw this played against me. Now the Herald DK is not doing well. This is like not enough to make it do well by any means. But when they played it against me, it did feel better.
Yeah.
Because you do have to deal with the remaining 1 or 2 that are still there. There are a number of big minions. This is not enough to make that deck good suddenly.
Yeah.
But it is a better card.
But I didn't feel like it was a bad card to begin with. It's just that the deck that it was in wasn't good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that this card really was a problem. Like, I was playing it again. Pre-release Brawl is a different environment, but it was fine in the pre-release Brawl. It was not. It was a borderline good card. Again, it's a different environment, but like, I don't know that this was one of the cards that was holding that deck back per se. It's still a good. It was already a good, like 9 attack is a lot of attack already. It's gonna kill almost anything, and like 9 healing is already a lot of healing. Like, I don't know that like you're gonna end up wasting that healing a fair amount of the time, or you're not gonna have board space for it. Like in the Herald DK, like you are actually kind of at a premium for board states because you have those stupid 1/1s and 2/2s that get left over from the Heralds a fair amount too, plus the minions that you're playing off of the Herald effect. So like, you don't have 4 board spaces to play with all the time in that deck anyway. I don't know. It just seems weird that this is the one that we're going to single out as something that we're going to try to help that deck with.
Yeah, we do have a comment in the chat, and this is how I saw it. It is much better if you play it with Soul Rest Ceremony.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's fair, I suppose.
Again, the win rate for this card, or for this deck, not this card, this deck in general, versus Demon Hunter, 1,000 game sample size, 29.1%.
Yeah.
Brutal. Especially when Demon Hunter is like 40% of the meta right now. We will get there, listener.
Yep.
Indeed we will.
Speaking of other cards that sure are cards, the Living Plague went from a 7-mana 7/7 to a 6-mana 8/8. A 6-mana 8/8, you say, why is that weird? Because this is the card that has charge, but instead of damaging heroes, it shuffles that many blights into their deck that deal 2 damage when drawn.
I have a story about this card today. Again, I am like the only person playing Soothsayer Priest, and I am sorry, listener, that I keep talking about this. I will do Z Summon or something for next week. But anyway, it's cost 6 now, so it can get summoned from the Soothsayer. So I got one that lasted 3 turns versus a rogue. Now, to be fair,
Wow.
if it had actually done real damage to them, they would have died earlier. But they had 24 of those. Actually, maybe we even got to 32 at the very end. But they had so many in their deck, and they just were like Neo from the Matrix, not drawing them. But I got them to 3 health. They had a big board. They had Twilight Mistress, my board. So I just used the priest location, hero power their face, and I'm like, you have 24 blights in your deck. You're gonna draw one and die. And they did. So you can, if it sticks, get a lot of blights in there. But also, if they're Neo from the Matrix, they don't draw them.
And also, the other lesson that we learned from this is that this card is a lot better if you didn't have to put it in your deck on purpose.
Yeah, there's also that.
And if you got it out of a 7/7 taunt that also healed you for 6, then this card is a lot better. I believe that. 100% I believe that. But
6/6 taunt, but still.
yeah.
Yeah, Soothsayer is a better card than the Living Plague, I think. But, to be fair, so are most cards.
Yeah.
It's a better card than most cards, but...
This just doesn't seem like a final design problem to me. This seems like an initial design issue that, I don't know that it's necessarily, it's just why are we playing this? Right. I don't know that they're trying to make it more appealing by making the numbers bigger, but I don't know that this was a numbers problem. I think it's a problem with mechanically we've seen plagues. We know how they go. And I don't know that making the numbers bigger is necessarily the way that you fix this card.
I think someone in chat has posted just the exact reason why this kind of plan is always flawed. Clark did the Infinite Blight achievement, where you have to get its power to infinite and then hit the opponent. So they're shuffling literally Infinite Blights in. And the opponent didn't draw one, which should not be possible. But, it doesn't actually shuffle infinite. So,
well, it's infinite plus whatever was in their deck, right? So,
right.
It's a very small percentage chance, but that's why it's called probability and not certainty.
Right.
It probably really gets them up to 100 because there's a limit to what can be held in the deck.
Yeah.
It's virtual infinity. Like the Jamiroquai song. No, that's virtual insanity. Never mind. Anyway.
It is also virtual insanity.
Yes.
So, not incorrect. Anyhow.
On to more changes that matter a little bit more. Warlock has got a number of changes that are actually impactful. Whether they're enough to make them, competitive or not is a different discussion, but I've definitely seen plenty of Warlocks over the last 2 days, and the deck has not seemed embarrassing, at least. So, Imkang Stooge is a 3-mana 2/5. It used to say Death Rattle, and it has Taunt. It used to say Death Rattle, put a 9/9 demon with Taunt and Lifesteal at the bottom of your deck. It now says put 2 8/8 demons with Taunt and Lifesteal at the bottom of your deck. That is a real change. Both because, I guess let's just talk about all of them because they all kind of go together. Annihilation was a 9-mana spell that said destroy all minions, summon any demons in the bottom 3 cards of your deck. It now costs 8 mana. And Morag is the prepare demon with Death Rattle, summon a random demon from your deck, give it Death Rattle, summon Morag. It went from 10 mana to 9 mana. Also, reminder, if you have not played the deck, that the way that Godfrey works is that the cards that were burned that then get later put in your hand are discounted by 1 when they are put in. So Annihilation effectively costs 7 most of the time, which is a big difference from 8. And so, I'm old enough to remember when Whirlpool for Priest got buffed from 9 to 8, and all of a sudden it went from unplayable to one of the best clears that Priest has had access to in a while. I think the same thing is true for Annihilation, especially because Annihilation very often ends up summoning you 2 or 3 8/8s that also have lifesteal. So that's kind of the win con for the deck. And that has, the deck still has its problems. The main one being that the other decks that are in the meta are so fast that you sometimes don't have enough chance to just go hero power, the draw 3 spell that costs less for the one in your hand. If you never get to that point, you never start getting the discounts and you never get going. And sometimes you need to be drain souling things early in order to just not die off the rip. But these 3 cards, I've seen them plenty, and they do seem to be working when they get the time to cook. It's just that sometimes the other decks that are in the meta don't always give them the time.
So, a goofy thing. I wish they had not changed Morag.
Okay.
Because it would make the Void Soul decks worse. Right? They could have done the other Void Soul changes and left Morag at 10. And now it's okay, you're summoning big stuff when you get to 10, but it's more of a gamble, right? It is now Omen, Morag, the super low roll, right? You got Omen on the high roll, Morag on the low roll, and then the taunt thing in the middle. But with Morag being at 9, now means that the place where the Void Souls hang out permanently at 10, similar to with the Animal Companions thing hitting at 10 and being Omen, Agamagan, and
Tortola.
Tortola, right? Where it's like, look, there's still 2 good ones of different varieties, and then there's 1 bad one, right? I feel like Morag should have stayed in that pool.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I love the Annihilation and Imp Gang Stooge changes together, because now, like Twisting Nether, I feel like is still going to have its space if you want to blow up locations, right? Or if you just want all the clears. But now you have this other option of Annihilation, and getting to 8/8s over 199 is obviously better. And I think, much more worth just like, oh yeah, we just throw this in there. And like, if we get it down before 8, I actually don't know how sequencing works. Like, if you blow up Imp Gang Stooge with the Annihilation, do you get the 8/8s? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but usually you're putting down the Imp Gang Stooge pretty early to help with the not dying immediately.
No, I know, but
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's not to say that it doesn't always work out that way, but like Imp Gang Stooge doesn't typically live through to the Annihilation turn.
I'm aware. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like,
Yeah, I don't
should
know.
things have gone late enough? I'm curious how that would work. Yeah, big fan of those for like the slower Warlock decks. Definitely been seeing a fair bit of like Rafam, Godfrey decks, but not actually using any of these cards that were changed.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the opposite. I've been seeing non-Rafam decks that are running these, and that's most of what I've been seeing when I've been playing against them and when I've been playing with them.
Interesting, because the stats for it's low sample size for both HS Guru and HS Replay, but the stats for just plain Demon Warlock are pretty abysmal, actually. But Rafam Warlock is close. Like, Rafam Warlock is edging up towards 50, not quite there on either of them, Diamond through Legend. But Demon Warlock, 40% or under on both. That could partly be build related and partly meta related. So, and again, I haven't run into it that much, so I can't really say from my own experience, and the deck size isn't that big. I have seen some of it though, just like in the Rafam deck. I don't know.
Yeah. So Homie was posted a list on Wednesday that he went 23. That they went 23-8 with up to rank 60 Legend. That did not run the Rafams. So I think that's what I've been seeing mostly was that list. The Herald list.
Okay. It's a Herald list, but it's not running Rafam.
It's a Herald list that's not running Rafam and it's not running Cho'Gall. So you're running...
Okay.
So you're running Morag, you're running Imp Gang Stooge, you're running Umbra, right? So you can get more Imp Gang Stooges to put more stuff on the bottom of your deck. You're running Cursed Chains, and then you're running the Heralds to be able to eat whatever you're... Either to eat the Morag and or the Imp Gang Stooge, or you're running it to be able to steal something from the opponent and then eat that with the Heralds.
Mhm.
And then you're also
Okay.
running Deathwing as some additional removal and some additional armor gain late in the game. And so
Okay.
you also run Eltraxian. You run everything but actual Cho'Gall in the deck.
I had not realized that those had been separated out in the stats. Herald Demon Warlock and regular Demon Warlock. So the Herald Demon Warlock is better than the Rafam Lock, but still early meta might change like 48%.
Yeah. It's still rough sledding. Yeah.
Yeah. But that is a lot closer. Some of the lists, interesting. A list with Glacial Shard and Rustrot Viper is positive on HS Replay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which makes sense just because there's so many Demon Hunters, and so targeting the Demon Hunters could make sense. And certainly it makes sense that the Heralds are better, because like A, having Deathwing as an alternate win con is important, but B, like Cursed Chains plus the Herald is just like so backbreaking for so many decks. Even like a Demon Hunter, you take their 3/4 taunt and are just like, lulz. Mine now.
Now that they're cutting the Fell Hunter, it's only like -1 Void Soul, but it's still -1 Void Soul, and it's minus a taunt that they don't get to hit you with. And I mean, there's room in the homie list for improvement, because like they're running Archwitch Willow, which I can't imagine can be a lot of other things.
Yeah, I will put this list. I'll take it from HS Replay, but then put it into HS Guru so it's not behind paywall for its stats.
Archwitch Willow.
Yeah.
What a card.
It sure is a legal Hearthstone card. It sure is.
This is a Theo HS deck with 2,600 games and a positive 54% win rate. So yeah,
Okay.
it is partly potentially build related. I mean, I think it is worth trying the Archwitch Willow, trying all the things and getting the first iteration of the deck out. But
yeah, I mean, I will say for Archwitch Willow, like there are times because you're also running Morarch Forge Fiends in the deck. So like sometimes you end up with like a Morarch Forge Fiend and then it pulls something out of your hand and out of your deck, so you get two things. So it's not completely useless, but it's also 8 mana to do that. And you already have a bunch of cards that cost like 7, 8, 9, and 10 in the deck. So having one less thing that costs 8 that does the same thing as other things that cost 8 is probably one of the first things that you'd be looking to cut out of that list.
yeah.
But also I'm not at rank 60 legend, so what do I know? You know?
Yep. 2 Restaurant Vipers in the Theo list. Wow. And 2 Glacial Shards.
Well,
all of that bringing it to even with Demon Hunter.
yeah. Which I guess means that we should talk about why are people running so many Vipers? Well, because Stardust Scythe, which is the 4-mana weapon for Demon Hunter that says after your hero attacks, get a Void Soul, got 1 extra durability up to 3. And when you get a lot of Void Souls, you get to hit people with big minions that cost 1, and that is very good. Similarly, Vicious Void Scale, which is the 3-mana 3/4 taunt for Demon Hunter, went from just getting the Void Soul on Death Rattle to getting it on Battle Cry and Death Rattle. So you get one immediately, and then you get another one when the Death Rattle goes off. So just from the 2 Void Scales and the 2 weapons, you are at 10 Void Souls. Just with those, without any Umbra shenanigans or Dark Gifts copying anything or whatever, you get to 10 Void Souls just that way, which is better than 2, 4, 6. The most you could get naturally, again, without Umbra things or whatever, would have been 6 before, and now you can get up to 10 once, just by playing those 4 cards out of the deck without any duplication or anything like that.
It's also like 6 more face damage, which is not ideal.
With the weapon, I think it's a little bit of the Companion Hunter thing, except for it's stronger than Companion Hunter was, where it's like, suddenly it's essentially a new deck because it's newly playable. And not only is it newly playable, so people want to play it, but it's quite strong, only bested by Hunter, which is less popular because it's been around. That has made the play rate be kind of insane for it. I think, there are things to tech against it, right? Like we saw with the Herald Demon Warlock, like you can really tech against the Demon Hunters, and when there's this many of them, it makes sense to do that. Maybe if they go away, then more like the homie list is more what we're supposed to be doing. But I can see where I'm glad that they did a bunch of buffs and tried to really get some more of these archetypes playable. I also do think it probably did need to come with some nerfs, but you do, I guess, have a risk if something gets buffed a little more than the others of having a little bit of the class set problem, where if you have just kind of like one thing that's really new and really good, that just draws in so many people that it becomes frustrating. I think the Void Soul Demon Hunter is a fun deck.
It's different, which is good.
It is different. It is interesting. It is kind of fun to play. It has some randomness, but doesn't feel like there is some randomness of like what hits do you get off of the Void Souls, but it's not like a Fiesta like Monk Shaman or like Vanessa Rogue.
But like the 2-mana 5/3 and the 4-mana 7/7 are in the pool, and you do hit, and those are big power spikes when you hit them, and those can feel pretty bad. Like there's enough variance, especially in like the 2, 3, the 2, 4, and 5s, because like the 5 has like the 3/4 kindred that's supposed to double itself, and then 4 has the 7/7 that discard the Warlock one that discards from you, or if it's kindred, it discards from the opponent. And then the 2-mana 5/3 that's supposed to be frozen with a battle cry, but it's not frozen when you summon it. Like those are big power outliers, and that can kind of feel a little bit bad when you run up against one of those, or when you summon the bad ones out of that. I think we also, just before we go too far, we should also mention for this deck specifically that Trastath Soul Parasite, which is the 6 mana Prepare Rush that gets bigger for every time you summon a demon. It gains its stats. It's instead of starting at a 1/1, it's now starting at a 3/3.
Entirely unnecessary.
Yeah, it doesn't need to. It's fine. Probably a buff to Priest more than it's a buff to Demon Hunter, because summoning this off of a Soothsayer felt miserable. And now at least it's at least can trade something off maybe, as opposed to just, great, I just summoned a 1-mana, a 1/1 with Rush off of my Soothsayer. Whoopee. I'm glad I put this in my deck.
Probably on their turn too. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten some hilariously huge Trastas very early. But I guess something to show kind of where we are with the Demon Hunters is that we were having an actual debate in the Discord about whether you even want to take the Temple Lust to Prepper. It's like, oh yes, I can have a 22 attack Trastath with a sort of equal amount of health on 6 if I took turn 5 off. Do we even want to do that? Like, because it is such a tempo deck. Now, I think it's worth playing, and in some games it's game winning. Other decks can deal with it. But like, I don't know. I just can't get myself to turn down that many stats with Rush. But it isn't what really, really put the deck over the top, I think, is the weapon, as shown by the fact that the Vipers and Glacial Shards made such a difference in the Warlock deck.
Well, and you kind of don't have to prep it. Like, if you spend those that mana that you would have spent prepping it, instead playing your Void Souls and upgrading them to the point that you're getting 5 or 6 drops or even more on turn 7 or turn 8. Say you play turn 8 totally unprepped, you just double Void Soul alongside Trastath. That's gonna be a 15 health minion.
And you don't have to fully prepare her either.
Right.
If you're bad like I am, and you forget to plus your hero power before swinging with the weapon, or it doesn't matter if the one extra attack doesn't matter. If you're swinging into a 3 health minion with the weapon, right? And you have 1 mana left over, you can just prep her for 1, make it cost 4. If you're playing that alongside 3 Void Souls later in the game, it is fine. You don't need to spend an entire you don't need to take a turn off like you would with Vanessa, right? Vanessa, you really want to get as close to free as possible. If you get her down, if you get Trastath down to 3 or 4 mana with a handful of Void Souls and you play them all at once, it's completely fine and it's well big enough. And they probably are not going to be able, if it's big enough that it doesn't matter, and that if you have Kane, you're just going to win regardless of whether you played 6 or 7 Void Souls. At a certain point, you just don't need that many stats, because you're just you're killing or you're overkilling at that point. Because anything is going to die other than a Tortola at that point, including somebody's face.
Yeah.
That is a good point, that it is a case of diminishing returns, right? And if it sticks, you can still buff it the next turn. It will continue to get bigger if it sticks.
And it's one of the only ways in that deck that you really have to remove a big thing without trading off some of your damage. So, you have Void Blasts that can deal, and Broxigar's Last Stand that can deal with a lot of little boards. If there's a big taunt in the way, you don't really have great options to be able to remove it other than Trastath. So I think that's the argument for keeping it in the deck.
Mm-hmm. Plus, if they get a Trastath, then you can Trastath back their Trastath.
It's Trastath all the way down.
All the way down. Be like Amanthul. You want to be the second person to play Amanthul back in the day?
Well,
less like that.
That takes us to the Demon Hunter change that is irrelevant, which is that Iridescent Seeker went from a 7/5 to a 7/7. It's a 4 mana 7/7 lifesteal that deletes your deck.
Again, some issues are initial design things that can't be fixed with buffs to numbers. And the problem with Iridescent Seeker is that there is not a compelling enough reason to want to do what her battle cry says that you're going to do. It really does not matter if you get to swing with the lifesteal minion once or twice, or make the lifesteal minion harder. The idea is that you're making the lifesteal minion harder to remove so that the fatigue damage doesn't matter. But the problem is also that the lifesteal is the least relevant when you are playing Irida because the fatigue damage is going to be lowest at that point. The lifesteal would be more relevant later on after you started taking the fatigue damage, but it's not going to stick around either way, whether it's a 7-5 or a 7-7. So, I mean, I get the idea here that maybe the lifesteal sticks around and negates more of the fatigue damage, but the fatigue damage is so minimal in the turns before the opponent figures out a way to remove Irida that either way it doesn't really matter, even with the 2 extra health.
So when I was playing Mug Shaman before, and granted, this was when she still had 5 health, but I don't know that it would have made much difference. I had like a Blazing Invocation with not good options, and I decided to take Irida because I was like, if this game goes long, I probably lose anyway. I want to have the big minion, right? And the lifesteal might be helpful right now because I was not at the super high life total, and I also was like top decking. So I was like, please give me more cards, 2 cards a turn. That sounds good. I still lost because the fatigue damage, I couldn't quite close out, and the fatigue damage did me in. Now I probably was losing that game anyway, but it's rough. You really have to close out quickly when you have that clock going on you, and you can't draw other cards. I like got my card draw finally from my deck, and I couldn't play it.
And even if the cards that you are draw are just like random stuff you've shuffled. So it's not like you can really like build a game plan around that because it's not like you're shuffling cards that you put in your deck on purpose. You're hoping that the random stuff you're going to generate is going to help you, the stuff that you're kind of staving off fatigue with desperately. It's just, there needs to be a more compelling reason. I don't want there to be, because this sounds miserable if this is going to be in the meta. But like, in order for this to see play, it's not a numbers thing. It's why are we doing this? And I don't, and there's not really a compelling story for it. There could be other cards that come out in the future that make this more viable. I don't know, but right now it's not the kind of thing where changing the numbers is going to matter. It might just be the kind of thing where, yeah, the changing numbers isn't going to matter, but we had this as a 7-7 in testing, and then we backed it off to 7-5 because we weren't sure, and now we can see that it's fine, so we're going to put it up to a 7-7. That might be the answer, and that's okay, but it's not going to move the needle on this card.
Yeah, we've kind of entered the less impactful changes segment of the balance changes. Why don't you tell us about all the priest changes, Wicked?
They gave Azalina 40 starting health. Well, they gave you 40 starting health when you play Azalina.
Not me.
Not me either after those 2 games. But yeah, it's so this is, again, if you're not familiar, Azalina is the card where you have a 20 card deck and then you add 20 cards from your opponent's deck. So you're cursed to play mirror matches for the rest of time when you're playing this. And it's like, the problem with this in general is that mirror matches are okay once in a while, but they are pretty miserable if that's what you're signing up for, even if you're not playing the same deck all the time, right? Like what you're saying when you're playing this deck is that I'm going to play mostly sort of mirror matches, not entirely, because you have some of your own cards, but you're effectively playing mirror matches. And now they're going to be, it's longer to, I've conceded to the Azalina Priest just because, like, I don't want to spend the time. Not because I thought that I couldn't win, but because, like, I queued a game a little bit closer to when I was supposed to start my workday than I should have. And I saw how the game was going, and I just needed to get out. But I don't feel like this is necessarily solving the problem of making this card feel more fun. I'm sure, which is not to say that nobody's having fun with it, right? Like, I'm not telling you you're wrong if you're having fun with it or whatever. I'm not, like, just because it's not for me, doesn't mean it's not for you. But it's also like, if what we have to do is give you 40 life, maybe there's a bigger problem that we need to address, or maybe, I don't know. We've been here with Renathal, and just like the games took forever and it was miserable. And a lot of the games I've played against the Azalina decks, I beat them anyway, but it just takes a lot longer. And it feels like more of a slog, which isn't fun, right? That's just kind of my feeling on it. Again, this is me just speaking as a dirty priest main who should be the target audience for this.
And what I'm seeing is that it is popular, but not very good, which is maybe what they were going for. And I think the popularity is probably dropping. As the only ones I saw were early. Then again, I'm playing at a rank where you don't have a lot of people playing bad decks.
Right.
Although I did run into 2 Reform locks in a row this morning and was like so annoyed because it's a terrible matchup for Soothsayer Priest. But why were they playing Reform lock? So anyway, the person spectating me was like, because it's a fun deck and they want to have fun. And I was like, I am not at the place where you have fun with this thing. I'm at the place where you win with this thing. Anyway.
The other reason, by the way, is that somebody got to rank 10 Legend with a 13-7 record with Reform Warlock. Today.
That's probably
or
why.
yesterday. Yeah.
I am glad they were living their best life, but yeah, I'll probably be trying things other than the priest. The Azalina, I don't know. I couldn't even bring myself to try it. I just felt like this was not going to be what I wanted to do, but I do know there are people who've been excited to try it, and so I don't know. Maybe it's bad, but not nearly so terrible that you can't play some games with it when you feel like being a troll is what they were going for.
Yeah. I guess we should talk about what goes along with that, which is the Enthralling Shade change as well, which is the card with a death rattle reduce the cost of cards in your hand that were copied from your opponent by 1. It went from a 3-mana 4/3 to a 2-mana 3/2, which is, we were talking about this in our chat also. This is also kind of a weird change to me because what this says is, hey, play this on curve because you can use this to trade off your opponent's early minions. But, and I guess there's value in that, but also like I've had people play this on curve against me on the play. And I'm like, fine, I'm void blasting the hell out of that because then you're only going to get three discounts out of it. And then it defeats the purpose of so is it there to just be a minion that you're trading off? I mean, there's flexibility there. It makes it an interesting decision, I suppose. But it also doesn't really help with the trade-off of I'm putting a bunch of my opponent's cards that may or may not be a complete deck into my deck, and I'm not getting any of the benefits. Like, say, if I'm playing against a Mug Shaman, I don't have the hero power, so I'm behind from the beginning, right? If I'm playing against the Demon Hunter, I may not have the portals, so which is kind of a big deal. So what like I may have the weapon, the lifesteal weapon, but I may not have the portals to draw out, right? So you're not getting the discount to be able to catch up that way if you're playing this out as a 2-mana 3/2 to be able to contest board. And you're certainly not an aggro deck that wants a 2-mana 3/2 to hit face. Like you might be put into the position of an aggro deck, but you're kind of half of an aggro deck, and you're still going to need to like live. Because if you're an aggro deck, you're also playing against another aggro deck, which means you're probably not hitting face with 2-mana 3/2 anyway.
Someone pointed out that the kind of most hilariously bad matchup as the Azalina is into Reform Lock, because there's no way you got all 10 Reforms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you ain't
Reform Lock is not usually winning by playing 10 Reforms. It's usually, I mean, that's going to be a really, really long game. But I guess they're going to win by playing the 10 Reforms because the game's going to take forever and there's no win con. So I guess that is the reason. But yeah.
In that matchup, that they are winning that way. And in the matchups that I have not conceded as Soothsayer Priest against them, they were going to win that way.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
But again, maybe that's different if you're playing a different matchup into them. I don't know how many times that matchup comes up, but it is kind of funny, though. That's just like unwinnable. Maybe not completely, but yeah, unless there's some, I don't even know how you would build this, but maybe we don't want it to be built in such a way that it's good. They also buffed Karov he was the 6-mana 6/6 death rattle. You get 3 random 1-mana 1/1 legendaries. He now has Taunt. That is a lot better. I'm not seeing him. He can't really go in Soothsayer because the death rattle pool needs to be contained.
That's the problem.
I'm not seeing him. There is Control Priest floating around. It seems
like
close.
Medivh Control Priest, right? That's what you mean when you say Control Priest, yeah.
Yeah, there is like the old Medivh Control Priest. It doesn't do very well against Demon Hunter, which is its main problem. Otherwise, it's actually fine. But Demon Hunter is like 40% of the meta right now, so
yeah,
that's a little bit of a problem.
It's definitely going to be worse when you're slamming a 6-mana 6/6 with Taunt and they play Kayn and kill you. Like that's definitely a worse thing. But I think the big problem is that it's a death rattle, not a battle cry. Is the main problem with it, because you cannot play it in Soothsayer Priest. It is catastrophically bad, especially because like there are a lot of bad legendary minions. Like a lot. Like I think I generated it once off of a Soothsayer maybe, and I couldn't even tell you what I got because it was all terrible, and none of it mattered.
I have seen
Yikes.
opponents get nice things, but the main sort of Medivh control priest lists I'm seeing are skipping it. It is much better. It's more if you just kind of want it for like the fun factor and the occasional you get a nice scam out of this thing. It's no longer like embarrassing to play, but it is so variable what you're gonna get and whether it's useful as a 1-mana 1/1.
Yeah, and just not getting the value immediately, having it be able to be hexed, having it be able to be curse changed and taken from you is kind of a problem. And the fact that it messes up your Umber pool with Soothsayers and Undeath Sentence is just a non-starter. That's the real problem with it. It's a death rattle in the first place. And that the effect is so variable that you don't really want it again necessarily anyway.
Right.
Well, now, obviously, what I have to do is make a control priest where it just tops out at Karov apart from board clears, and you're just recurring that death rattle.
Yeah.
You know, say goodbye to
Calumet, though.
Soothsayer.
Yeah.
Just random legendaries deck, you know?
Sure. Random legendaries are always good, famously.
That's right.
I mean, send it to me when you do it, and maybe after rotation.
Yeah.
It would be so bad.
Yep. Maybe in casual.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that in casual. Casual is a mode.
Nah, who cares?
When they do Commander for Hearthstone ever, then you can do that, I guess. Rampaging Hound it was a 3/12 with Prepare, Battle Cry, force all enemy minions to attack this. It is now that costs 7 mana with the Prepare discount. Now it's a 4/12. Sure. That will kill more things. I have not seen this. I don't expect. I maybe we will, but mostly when I've been seeing that has been when it was generated by like a companion hunter or something, more so than it actually being played on purpose.
Maybe in the future, if we have more slower warrior support and a deck in that vein, then this might totally fit in that.
It's not bad. It's just I haven't seen it, and I don't know if that. I mean, it's not a bad change, but I don't. It's hard to say because I just didn't see it before, haven't seen it now. So, and Sewer Swimmer, which is the hunter minion with Prepare and Battle Cry trigger friendly minions death rattle. It went from a 5 mana 5/4 to a 4 mana 4/3. Again, haven't seen it. I saw Sidisi was pretty excited about it, as one would expect. I didn't see what the results of that experimentation were. I think the problem is that Hunter, it's going to take it's still hard to confront the Tolvir out of Hunter's hands right now, and anything else is kind of second fiddle.
Yeah, I'm sure Sidisi's been trying things with it, but I didn't see any posted deck on his Blue Sky with it. So I have seen some people posting Quest Hunters. I know Sidisi's kind of sick of Quest Hunter, but like World 8 posted one. You can run Rust Rot Viper and be happy about it.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Any excuse to run. Okay, so we have to run Rust Rot Viper. What is that? What decks does that fit into? Oh, that's an odd attack beast for Quest Hunter. Solved. We did it. Good job, everybody.
And King of the Underbelly, like you can get 2 Agamagons extremely consistently in that deck, and you have you have Briar Spawn Drake if you need it, and you can just do gobs of damage later on in the game if you need to. So that is a deck. I don't know how much stats there is, but it is a deck that I have anecdotal evidence of doing all right.
It exists. That is our seal of confidence. That deck exists. We'll touch on the wild balance changes very quickly because we already kind of talked about them to some extent already. Godfrey again is banned. Solarium is going from 1 mana to 2 mana. So which is draw 3 cards. They're temporary. Usually if you burn all those cards with a full hand with Godfrey, that would get and that was already that was already an issue in Discard Warlock anyway, because the temporary cards count as being discarded. There's a million different ways to abuse discarding in Wild, so being able to do that very cheaply would still, usually there's a bunch of cards that do something terrible to the opponent when they get discarded. You're trying to draw those, or do something else that cares about discarding, and making that a little bit more expensive is probably just good in general. Elwyn Boar, mascot of Pocket Train, I suppose. So if you have not seen this, it's a 1-mana 1/1 beast with Death Rattle. If you had, it used to say 7 Elwyn Boars die this game, equip a 15/3 Sword of 1,000 Truths that when you swing it, it deletes all your opponent's mana crystals, and then you basically win the game from there. You now have to kill off 10 Elwyn Boars instead of 7, because apparently 7 was too easy in Wild. I believe that. I don't know the specifics, but I believe that 7 was too easy and they had to make it 10. I did see some people on Reddit complaining about the Sword of 1,000 Truths as recently as a couple of weeks ago, and why that stupid weapon exists. And yeah, I believe that they were very upset when that happened to them. Welcome to Wild.
We're being told 7 because of Bat Mask.
Yeah, okay. Yep, that makes sense. Because then that turns everything, it summons 6 copies of it on your board. You have 7, then you kill them off. Whatever your 1 mana, 1 damage AoE is of choice, yeah, you kill them all off, and then yeah, that all makes sense to me. That needed to change. Yep.
See, you at least need to trade your Amulet of the Undying 50 bajillion times to get your sword in Priest.
Back in the old days when we had to walk uphill back both ways in the snow to get our Sword of 1,000 Truths. Sword of 1,000 Truths. I'm moving on because that is too hard to say. And that is a silly card, and Camelot is a silly place. Swift Scale Trickster. Boy, would I have loved to see this nerf a few years ago when this was in standard. Screw that card. Was a 4-mana 2/2 and is now a 6-mana 4/4. With Battle Cry, your next spell this turn costs 0 because Quasar is still a thing in Wild. That will make it, I believe Quasar costs 6, so this would let you Quasar 2 turns ahead of schedule, and now it does not. So, yeah. Anything that makes Quasar happen less often in any format can only be a good thing, because screw that card as well. So, one other change specifically to Arena that they also called out in the Dev Insights video, they are increasing the appearance rate of cards from the new expansion in Arena, because they were just not appearing often enough and not making it feel enough like the new expansion for people who really do play Arena to play with the new cards. So that is, they're watching that. I would expect that that's a lesson they're going to take into future seasons, future expansions. So, you should see more cards from the new expansion as well. And there are a ton of Battlegrounds updates. We've been talking for probably about 2 hours at this point. So we're going to leave that as usual as an exercise to the reader, but there's a lot of things that are happening with Battlegrounds. They're also, in the Dev Insight video, they also alluded to some changes that are coming in the next season of Battlegrounds, like they're introducing Dark Gifts with a Battlegrounds twist, and they're also doing short form numbers for any numbers that are going beyond 4 digits on Power and Toughness in Battlegrounds, so you can actually read what the numbers are when things get that big, which is a thing that happens in Battlegrounds with some regularity. So,
and proof that when I play Battlegrounds, which is extremely rarely, I am not playing the same game as people who actually know what they're doing.
It's like when you play Balatro and you start getting the scientific notation, and that's when you've really figured the game out, or at least like managed to high roll enough. So, same thing.
Yep, basically, and that'll in a way be very satisfying to players when they start getting essentially the scientific notation, right? Then they can be proud of themselves that they have figured out Battlegrounds.
Yeah, this isn't scientific notation. It's just like 1.4K when you get that big, which is
right.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yep. So, we have a new meta. We will probably talk about some decks next week. Maybe Demon Hunter, maybe something we'll have figured out how to topple it. Maybe we'll be talking about Warlock. Maybe we'll have, decided that we needed to do an audible call for help and start talking about how to play Azalina Priest. Who knows? But yeah, that's the meta we have, and that's the balance patch.
I think barring emergency changes, we will be talking about Demon Hunter and how to beat Demon Hunter. I feel like that's usually what we do when there's something this dramatically ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we tried to do with Mug Shaman last week until we realized that it was not the kind of deck that you can really do a deck guide about. So.
So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our About Us section on the website. It just doesn't flow, at CoinCede.com. You can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinCede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coincede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coincede.com. Write into our email at coincede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at CoinCede. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@CoinCede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coincede.com. So, Concedes, I will start. Concede to Lorinda because it was not planned that I would miss all of APAC. But what we did was after the tech check around 2 a.m., 1:30, by the end too, I said, Lorinda, I've got 3 hours, right? I usually have 3 hours. And they said, thought about it for a moment and said, yeah, you've got 3 hours. And you know what? If you don't have 3 hours, I'll cover for you. Turns out, match 1, 3-0. Match 2, 3-0. Match 3, 3-0. All, of course, aggro decks. So I wake up and check things out around 5 a.m. after my 3 hours of sleep and go, oh, crap, Lorinda's casting.
I'll teach you to sleep in.
So that was very, very kind of them. I did end up getting to pay them back for it. I filled in when they were having technical issues. But it was just kind of this funny thing of like, oh, I didn't intend to make use of that. But and look, they offered because it was sort of like, well, if we're in a situation where you don't have 3 hours, it means that Lorinda's match did not go very long. Like they were not casting very much before then, so it wasn't taking on this huge extra burden. So that's me.
Well, I will coin concede to Team 5 and the community team and whoever is responsible for being able to have media access to BlizzCon. That is extremely appreciated, and we're excited to be able to. We'll figure out exactly how we're bringing that to you guys, but we will. There will be an opportunity to like record and upload content like there without having to like traipse all the way back to my hotel room like we did last time.
On that terrible recorder, by the way, that bad idea of a recorder that I brought with me that was not up to the challenge.
So, and it'll probably be easier also having our podcast software, which is all based in the browser, so that if we can use whatever computer and it's all there, we don't have to worry about files. We don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But, really excited to, and also just really excited that there is a BlizzCon. So,
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to coin concede to hearthstonedecks.net because it's a site that, like, with the closing of Hearthstone Top Decks has also been doing a lot of good work, and we don't talk about them nearly enough, but is a good resource especially since Hearthstone Top Decks, was closed down effectively. They're not as prolific on Blue Sky, which is why it's easy to forget, at least for me, to forget that they're around, but they're still doing a lot of good work in cataloging, like the finishes that are being, the decks that are being posted on social and collecting them all in one place, which is how I knew about the Homie Was Taken non-Rafam Warlock, and also the actual Rafam Warlock that hit top 10 legend. So without having to go launch Twitter and dredge through the remnants of that site to try to find out what's going on, and they are saving me from having to do that. So I appreciate that, and that's another site that you should bookmark if you haven't already, because that is also a good place to find lists if you don't necessarily want to find just whatever's like the most popular thing, but you want to see what other people have been posting about. Sometimes you can find some hidden gems in there, or maybe even get a little bit of an edge on the meta if you find something a little bit off the beaten path. So that is going to do it for us for this week. So keep calm and eat your more eggs. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.